Boom! 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 Boom!
Boom!
Brian Reese here, the VA Claims Insider, coming at you live from Austin, Texas. Boom!
That's pretty exciting, Dave.
Fantastic. That's the first time I've actually ever seen that. So that was really awesome. That was my first time seeing it too. So great job by our entire marketing team. So many teammates, fellow vets, to include folks like B. Loft and Eric, the bearded vet behind the scenes, and Mary and everybody on the marketing team. I don't do this alone. Right. Nothing great happens alone. We've got an incredible team behind us doing things. So awesome intro. Without further ado, though, I want to welcome my man, my brother, Brian Lofton. We call him B Loft.
What's up, B? Glad to be here. Looking forward to talking to you about this important topic. And I know that this is a really underserved discussion. And so, yeah, this is exciting. Glad to be here with you today.
Thank you, man, for doing this, and welcome. Couple things. So fellow disabled vets, any family members, dependents, spouses, anybody associated with military veterans and those communities, welcome to you as well. Okay. Again, we wouldn't be here without you. And so, as we see across the screen here, hey, Greg, thanks for your service. Kind of like we always like to do here when we start. Tell us who you are, right? Tell us something good. We want to, as fellow disabled veterans, we want to recognize you. We want to recognize your honorable service to our nation. You served, you deserve. Hey, Phil, boom, exactly. And so, again, we do this because we actually want to recognize you, and we want to say thank you, and not the cheap thank you, that you get from the civilians who don't understand anything about military service. I'm talking about the real one, because we get you, we understand. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that. U.S. Navy 22 and a half. Hey, Lisa, good to see you on. Thank you for everything you do from Sea Springs. Maddie Schmidt, Army 01 to 09. Hoorah!
Hello.
Richard Daly, 71 to 72, Vietnam. Welcome, sir. Thank you for your service. It's pretty awesome. Who else we got over here? Big fan of VA Insider. Went from 10 to 90. Boom, life-changing. That's awesome, Ralph. Really awesome. Hey, Fred, thanks for your service. U.S. Army. Hey, Ben, good to see you again, man. United States Air Force, 74 to 94. Thank you. Hey, Clinton, U.S. Army.
Clinton.
This is so cool. Again, thanks, Phil, for blasting that. U.S. Army 9094. The point I want to make here is, regardless of how many years you served, okay, I mean, maybe you wore the uniform for one day and got kicked out for something ridiculous, or you got med boarded. The bottom line is this, and this is how we view things here, is you raised your hand, okay? I'll get it so you can see the camera. You raised your hand, okay? And I don't know about you, B. Loft, but I still remember the oath of office that I took, right, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reserve or personal evasion. I have it still memorized. That's how important it is.
That's awesome. I absolutely still remember standing in the mess, standing in that room and raising my hand. That was such an awesome moment. Absolutely.
So cool, man. Again, it doesn't matter how many years you served. B. Loft, how many years were you in, sir?
I was in from 90 to 93 in the Army. I signed up as 11 Bravo in infantry, and then I also spent a little time as a 13 Mike in the artillery. Yep. Okay.
Very cool. Thank you. Did you were you in Desert Storm, Desert Shield? Did they send you over there?
I was never deployed. The closest I got was whenever I was stationed in Germany. We got put on alert a few times for Somalia, but
sure.
I would say thank the Lord I was actually never deployed to some degree, because
Yeah.
You get enough struggles as it is. So.
Amen to that. And again, it goes, so he did 3 years, right, of time. I did about 6.5, 10.5, if you count time as a cadet. And I honestly don't think I could have done any more time. I know that I wasn't deployable again. And so, if I would have stayed, I would have eventually been, probably booted, right? I would have had to have been a med ward. I wouldn't have been able to do another deployment for sure. So again, it really doesn't matter whether you did 1 day or you did 40 years. You raised your hand. You said, I will serve. I will defend. I will put my life on the line. And that's special. Okay, that's something, and we're going to celebrate it.
And I know that a number of vets are even in the shoes that I am. I served 3 years, but I can tell you whenever I signed up, I wanted to be a lifer. I mean, I lived and breathed the opportunity to be in the military. That was what my dream was. So the fact that I served 3 years, doesn't speak to the fact that I was done. Speaks to the fact that my time was cut short.
Wow. That's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, man. So again, thank you, fellow vets, for your service, for being vulnerable with us, for sharing things on the screen. And Beloff, thank you, brother, for being here. It's a super important topic because we talk a lot about the military troop, right? Active, reserve, guard. We talk a lot about veterans, right? Us, you listening. But we don't really talk a whole lot about the total force. And what I mean by the total force is our loved ones who are affected by our service, okay? Typically by our service-connected disabilities. And man, I can't think of a better way to tee this up other than to literally speak directly into the lives of the spouses, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the friends, the dependent children, the parents, the loved ones of fellow veterans. Thank you.
Yes,
I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart, because you are typically the ones who bear the brunt of the things that happen to us. And unfortunately, in Beloft, and again, we're going to get vulnerable here, I know for me, it's the people closest to me who are most affected by my disabilities. And they really feel the full weight of those struggles because they're in the trenches taking grenades too, every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I enlisted, I was 17 years old. I just turned 17. And so obviously I wasn't married at the time, but it was a struggle for my parents to sign on the dotted line to allow me to do that.
Yeah.
And particularly knowing that I was gung ho, right? That's why I went infantry. I wanted to be at the tip of the spear, and so that I saw what that did to just my parents at that age. Of course, when you're 17 and you're full of spit and vinegar, you're ready to move forward, and you're not really looking at everything surrounding you and how it affects your family, right? But absolutely, even at that time, they were serving with me as I went through the training, as I was stationed elsewhere. And the reality is that even though, and I was married shortly after, just a few years after my separation, I would say that even though I wasn't married at the time, my wife over the last 22 years 23 years, has really had to serve along with me without her really even quite comprehending what she got into.
Interesting how it happens that way. And I'll just ask anybody listening if that sounds like you. right? If that sounds like you, that, you served, you're the one who wore the uniform, but your loved ones wore it too. They walked alongside next to you. Were they the ones who actually went downrange? No, you did. Okay. Were they the ones who raised their hand and signed on the dotted line? No, you did. Were they the ones who loved you, walked with you, supported you, saluted you, promoted you, and dealt with all of you for better or for worse, right? Raise your hand and say yes if that sounds like you. Because everything you just described, Beloff, that sounds a lot like me. Yeah. And a lot of what our loved ones deal with on a daily basis, and they bear the brunt of that. And I think the biggest thing, and I just, again, want to share this in pure vulnerability for anybody listening, is we've got a mental health crisis in our world. We absolutely have a mental health crisis among our active duty corps. We've got a mental health crisis for those who wore the uniform, fellow veterans, fellow disabled veterans. We've got a mental health crisis everywhere. Okay. People are stressed out. People suffer from severe depression, severe anxiety. A ton of U.S. military veterans have those types of things, to include post-traumatic stress disorder. There's way too much military sexual trauma within our ranks. It's unacceptable. Okay. And DP, David Pineda and I were talking about this not too long ago. And it's like, one word comes to mind: unsat, right? Unsat and unacceptable. Yep. And if you start to think about this, you have to start to understand, well, why do we have a mental health crisis, right? What are the triggers? What is the why behind the why? What's the reason behind the reason that we've got a mental health crisis? Well, I've got some theories. Okay, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an attorney, I'm a fellow disabled veteran, just like y'all. Okay, but I've got a theory, and it's a theory that we founded this movement upon. And that theory is that veterans are craving belonging again. We're craving to have an identity again. We're craving to feel surrounded and lifted up by fellow brothers and sisters who served, because sometimes it feels like they're the only ones who understand us. And in that community, okay, this is what we believe: movements have the power to change the world. Movements are led by people, okay? Movements have the power to change the world. Movements are led by people. So what matters here? It's people. It's y'all. It's fellow veterans, fellow disabled veterans. It's military spouses. It's those who support military communities. That's what this is all about. And the whole idea here, and this is how I think we solve the mental health crisis, okay? More community. The VA's answer to the mental health crisis is more friggin' pills, more therapy and counseling sessions, okay? And I'm not going to discount those things, because I think we need some of that stuff too. Okay, again, I'm not a doctor. I personally believe, B. Loft, and I'd love to hear your perspective and anybody else hearing my voice right now, that the way that we get through the mental health crisis in America, the way that we're able to prevent and stop active duty service members and military veterans from killing themselves every single day, is more community.
Absolutely.
And in that community, we have to encourage, build up, and promote the fact that it is okay not to be okay. It is okay to admit you ain't okay. And in those moments, again, in these uncomfortably vulnerable conversations that we talk about every single day here, from top to bottom. I don't care if you're CEO of the company or somebody who just started. I don't care if you've been in our programs for one day or you've been with us since we were founded. We have to have the uncomfortable conversations with each other. And we got to do it in community. I think that's the answer, B. Loft, and I'm curious what you think, or anybody listening, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, B. I can tell you just from personal experience, right? It took 26 years after separation that for the buddy that I had joined with, he happened to be seeking assistance from the VA for his mental health. And it was that helped him see that there was something that I needed help with. And it was only because of his encouragement that I even started this journey. I just assumed that everything that I was doing was just because I'm just screwed up. I didn't know how to really live life properly. Everybody else seemed to have it all figured out, but yet everything I did just turned to crap, right? And it's because of that buddy. It's because of the beginning to have that sense of community and that encouragement that enabled me to take that first step. And I see this every day when we're working with vets who are struggling with mental health. That to see them come in and join in our community and be around fellow vets and just see that others are going through the same thing. It's amazing to see that light come on, that life come into them, that they're willing to open up about themselves and having vets thank us to say, I would have never really sought assistance if it wasn't for that encouragement. It's powerful to experience that.
It is, and thank you, Bila, for being vulnerable and sharing that. We all have a story, right? Every single person who's walking on earth today has a story. We ain't promised a perfect life. We live in a fallen world, and stuff is gonna happen, right? This thing called life is gonna kick you in the teeth. And it's gonna force its way where it literally crams you down on your face to the point where you can't breathe and maybe you feel like you can't go on. And as B. Loft talked about, I call them bumper buddies, right? We need a buddy to bump us back on, right? So imagine a train going down the track, right? The train's going down the track and everything's just fine. And then something happens and you get jarred off track, right? You're going through a divorce or a tough family issue, or there's a death in your family. There's a COVID situation. Someone lost a job. You're dealing with some serious mental health issues. You can't sleep. You're struggling in your relationships. Maybe it's sexual dysfunction that's causing a rift between you and your spouse. Whatever the situation, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, gambling addiction, sex addiction, whatever it is, these are the things that human beings struggle with. And I think that those things are only further exacerbated by the fact that you wore the uniform. Because it doesn't matter whether you were deployed or not, B. Loft and anybody listening. Again, it doesn't matter if you served one day or 40 years. If you chose to raise your hand and say, I will serve and put my life on the line, you have seen and experienced trauma. Okay. Again, I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to sit up here and talk about the mental health diagnostic criteria today. The point is, though, is everybody deals with trauma, the shock and awe effect, trauma in our lives. And whether that trauma turns into a diagnostic level mental health condition or not, that's beside the point. You experience trauma. And when we experience trauma and pain, there's often physical reactions to those things, okay? And so that's some of what we wanted to talk about again today. is that this stuff is very real. Depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder and military sexual trauma and insomnia and anger and suicide. Okay. These things are very real, and they impact the military and veteran communities in which we live and work and in which we serve. And like that train going down the track that gets jarred off course with some trauma, okay? You oftentimes need a trusted buddy to bump you back on the right path, right? And B. Loft shared his story of the buddy that helped bump him on the right path. I have a very similar story. I was in a deployed environment in Afghanistan, struggling with a very serious mental health condition, begging the psychiatrist in deployed theater not to tell my commander and not to send me home. And the guy didn't even know that I was thinking about killing myself. Right? And I wasn't going to tell him that. But the thought of actually being sent home with a diagnosed mental health condition as the supposed leader of my troops, I couldn't even stomach the thought of that level of shame and embarrassment, that I actually started to think that maybe that was my only way out. And it was because of one of my best friends in the entire world who actually came to see me in theater, total God moment, who hugged me and loved me and walked me to mental health. Okay. And again, these are the things that I'm talking about when I say be a bumper buddy. Okay. Be the light in somebody's darkness and bump them back on the right path. Ask the hard questions. Ask the hard, uncomfortable questions. And again, I'm gonna say it right here, right now. What is the hard, uncomfortable question? It's being able to sit in the darkness as you're the light, being able to empathize with the person, having enough trust and respect between us all as human beings that you can look that other person in the eye and say, man, you don't seem okay. Can we talk about it? Like, what's going on? How can I help you? How can I pray for you? How can I serve you? How can I hug you? And then you've got to ask the really hard question. Are you thinking about taking your own life? Okay. Again, uncomfortable conversations. We got to be uncomfortably vulnerable. How many people here feel comfortable asking somebody they love if they're thinking about taking their own life? Nobody. Zero people. Okay. I've had to ask that question many times in my young life of those around me. I've had that question asked of me. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. There's nothing fun about it. Okay. But you got to do it. You have to do it. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to that human being and their family and their loved ones that you ask the tough questions. Okay, I'm begging you to please do that. And by the way, whether you're young or old, and whether you served in the military is beside the point. I had a conversation not long ago with my 7-year-old son. I'm going to bring this up on the call right now. I've never talked about this before. My 7-year-old son was talking about suicide at dinner.
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, sweetheart, where did you learn that? Where did that come from? He said he learned it at school, that one of the other kids was talking about suicide. And we dug into that and we've engaged with the school. Okay, so the point here is you could be 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and maybe there's some exposure or thing around this idea of suicide. We've got to talk about it. Stop hiding in the shadows. Right? The only way through this is frickin' through it. We can't skirt around it. Okay? Can't skirt around it. And so B-Loft, again, man, as we jump into this, we've talked a little bit about how disabilities can affect families from a mental health perspective, but of course there's always the physical perspective as well. And so just in the interest of time, as we start to dive into the disabilities and the effects that those disabilities can have on our families, can you share a little bit more with folks about kind of your story? And then let's start getting into some of the meat here of what are the benefits that are available to the dependents, right, of disabled veterans. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, my story is whenever I left the Army in '93, I was separated with 10% because of a foot injury. But other than that, I avoided the VA like the plague. I did not want to have anything to do with other vets. I did not want to have anything to do with the VA. Like so many that are probably have joined us today, you may have had some experiences with the VA with other family members when when you're younger. And I had that experience with an uncle who had to be hospitalized with the VA, and I saw the terrible care that he received at the time. And so I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it's after that encouragement from my buddy that I started that search for getting the care. I reached out to the VA, and like you said, it's difficult to have that conversation. It's difficult to acknowledge those weaknesses that we have. And honestly, I couldn't even call the VA to start that conversation. I actually had to text the hotline. And that was the only way I could find a way of opening the conversation.
Wow.
And so it was after that, had some, dialogue through that, and then finally got connected with the mental health and started that, and then, got eventually plugged into the rest of the VA. And so once I started to understand more about, hey, these things that I've been dealing with are, they're actually connected to something else. They're actually related to something that maybe happened in service. And then I reached out to a couple of VSOs, started looking for assistance on seeking the disability benefits. And that was, man, what a nightmare and intimidation factor that is, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Raise your hand and comment yes in the chat if you understand everything there is to know about VA benefits. Go ahead. Put it in the chat. Raise your hand and type yes. Okay, I got both hands down and I'm saying no.
I see crickets in the chat. Yeah, it's a confusion factor, right? Who can understand the government in a big bureaucracy that the VA is? And so, particularly whenever you're just now opening the door to this whole thing. And so, got a little assistance and managed to get myself to 80% based off of research that I started doing on my own. And it's because of that research and once I hit that 80%, I realized that I was just hitting a wall. There's no way I could find the support and the medical professionals I needed to help me. And that's how I came across VA Claims Insider. And what's interesting is even like Military Disability Made Easy, I was locked into that website before I even heard of VA Claims Insider. And to come to find out that it's part of our resource to the community is just an amazing. It's just the best single resource out there to be able to learn more about our disabilities and how the VA looks at those things. And 2 months after I came on board and connected with the teams and the coaching I received from CMB, I was awarded 100%. And at the time, there was an opportunity for me to come on board and start helping other vets. And what's really interesting is that one of the therapists that I was meeting with at the time, she told me that I see you one day helping other vets. And I looked at her, I was like, you must be smoking crack. There's no way I'm going to be able to be of any assistance or benefit to other veterans. And to then have this come about just a few months later, to be able to join the movement that you started just 4 years ago, it is just an amazing opportunity. And that's, it really is a movement. It really is a passion. It really gives a sense of purpose in life to be able to help others and help them discover what they're dealing with, help their families. And that's, again, that's kind of what we're talking about today. We struggle for ourselves, but how do we feel like think our families are feeling? They know even less than we do.
Yeah. All
they know is that I don't want to participate in family activities. I like to stay in my office and isolate from everybody. Even whenever people are over at the house, I can stay isolated. And it's just amazing. And so understanding what they're going through and seeing that the pain and seeing the children or grandchildren look at you and they want to enjoy the time with you, but they got to come to you, and they got to make all the effort. Yeah. Because there's just nothing that's free flowing outward. So that's really the nut of the gist of my story and
powerful, Beloft. I mean, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I mean, it's not easy to do that, right? It's not easy to open up, especially when you're live, right? Like,
yeah.
It's one thing to have a one-on-one conversation, but it's another thing when you're speaking to the world, right?
Yes.
And it's a difficult thing to do. And the one thing that I would just encourage everybody here is there's something magical, right? Who here's ever heard the truth will set you free? Right? Who's ever heard that? It's foundational. It's biblical, right? That the truth will set you free. And there's something powerful that happens when you can be the real you, right? When you can actually share the ugly and somebody will listen and you're not going to be judged. And it's just completely liberating. And I think that it's actually a pivotal step, Beloft, to moving forward, is to have those discussions, as uncomfortable as they are, and admit that you're not okay. And so, again, thank you for starting that conversation. And fellow vets, and again, anybody hearing our voice, spouses, kiddos, anybody who's a dependent, maybe you're a surviving spouse, a parent, this session is for you. And this session is for you because we're going to be speaking life into some of the benefits and resources that you deserve. Okay. Now, I say this a lot. In fact, if you go to the VAClaimsInsider.com website homepage right now, you're going to see 4 words. You served, you deserve. I'm going to say it again. You go to the VA Claims Insider homepage, you're going to see 4 words. You served, you deserve. Okay. I'm not the smartest guy. Is that 4 words? Yeah, it's 4 words. Okay. It's 4 words. We're giving you permission. We're giving you permission to get the benefits you are legally, morally, ethically, and medically entitled to by law. Okay? And sometimes you just need that kick in the ass. You need somebody to kind of shake you and be your bumper buddy and get you back on track and say, stop lying to yourself. You do deserve it. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you're not 100% permanently and totally disabled. You work, you're very blessed. You're a director at a company. Things are not horrible for you, but you're dealing with some stuff. Okay. Maybe you deserve a 10% disability rate. Maybe you deserve 30. Maybe you deserve 70. Maybe you're a dependent who deserves dependent educational assistance. Maybe you are the dependent of a veteran who deserves a 100% P&T rating. And if that veteran gets the 100% P&T rating, your entire family is now eligible for CHAMPVA healthcare.
That's huge.
Free healthcare for you and your entire family. That's a benefit that you might deserve and you might not even know it. Okay? Again, you served, you deserve. So Beloff, let's start talking about some of these things. What are, in your brain, what are kind of the top 2 or 3 benefits that are out there for dependents, right? Surviving spouses, parents, dependents. Can you talk about some of that for us?
Absolutely. So there's one, regardless of what rating you are, that I think is incredibly powerful, and that's the dependent or indemnification compensation, or otherwise called DIC. And the power of that is, if we have something that's service connected that we pass away from, we have our spouse, our surviving spouse, or surviving dependent may qualify for ongoing tax-free compensation. And that's because of the acknowledgement that we served, and because the acknowledgement that we had a disability that ultimately took our life. I think that's a pretty powerful benefit from the VA to help. And we see vets do this frequently, that they might even be, in fact, just recently I had one vet that I spoke with, obviously go into details, but going into hospice, desperately looking to get service connected for something that they deserved, because their only interest was to take care of their spouse. And that's just powerful to know that there is that benefit that drives vets, and that can be the only driving factor for a number of vets to seek disability, is for that care. It's kind of like a life insurance, if you will, life insurance annuity that just pays off into perpetuity for surviving spouse or dependent. Yeah. Wow.
So Beloff, thank you. So he's talking about, it's known as the DIC program, DIC, which stands for Dependency and Indemnity Compensation. Okay, DIC. Now, there's some specific criterion that you can be eligible for. What I would encourage you all to do, and we'll post some resources afterwards. We've got some blogs up on our website as well talking about dependency and indemnity compensation. But it's another benefit that's available to surviving spouses, parents, and eligible dependents, okay, depending upon your situation. So that's a huge one. Let's talk a little bit about DEA, the educational assistance. This is another virtually unknown, untapped benefit. Can you share a little bit about that one?
Absolutely. And that was actually going to be number 2. Actually, that's kind of tied for number 2 for me. But the DEA program, or Dependent Education Assistance Program, is if you are 100% PNT, permanent total, and it doesn't mean that you're just 100% based off of the totality of your ratings. If you are TDIU, or individual unemployability, you get the PNT benefits. It's also called Chapter 35, and this is education benefits that can send dependent children or spouses to school, pay for tuition, pay for housing, That's incredible. Can you imagine? I mean, what parent doesn't worry and wonder how they're going to provide and cover the expenses of ever increasing costs for education? And here we go with a bit, like you said, it really is largely undiscovered for most vets. To have that's huge.
Yeah. So just to thank you and just to give folks some understanding here is Chapter 35 benefits, the Dependents Educational Assistance Program. It's known as DEA for short. I mean, literally, if your dependents who meet certain age requirements, right? I don't see college getting any cheaper anytime soon. There's also some other eligibility and certification programs and things that may qualify for somebody for DEA as well. But you can get over $1,000 a month paid to that person while they're in school, okay, or while they're pursuing those things. So it's just, again, another benefit that a lot of disabled veterans and their families of BLOFT, they don't even know about.
Yeah.
They've never even heard about it. And kind of like how you described at the beginning, it's this freaking rat nest, this maze that we're all trying to navigate, and you just don't know how to do it. And you end up online and you end up on one link, and then you have to click another one to go learn more about it. And then you click another one to learn more about that. And then you click another one to learn more about that, to learn more about that, to even decide where you started. And before you freaking know it, you don't even know what you're there for anymore.
That's right.
You don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you started doing. It's clickbait. It's like click through after click through after click through after click through, and you leave more confused than when you started. Okay. Yep. That is why I founded VA Claims Insider. Okay. That is the reason Military Disability Made Easy is a huge part of what we do, right? No, notice it's not called Military Disability Made Difficult, right? Military Disability Made More Confusing. No. We've made it simple, searchable, indexed, and easy to understand, right? That's what we've done. And VA Claims Insider is simply the extension of that. We said, you know what? We need community. If we're going to help veterans celebrate real life change, we need to do it in community. Okay. That was the foundation of VA Claims Insider. And oh, by the way, we're pretty good at helping you get the benefits you deserve, right? But that's not why we do what we do. Right?
Yeah.
We wake up every single morning, men and women, just like BLOFT, stand ready to fight with you. They stand ready to listen to you. They're there to welcome you. They're there to ask you how your life is. They're going to greet you by your first name. They're going to remember you as a person because you're a veteran, and that matters. Okay, that should be celebrated. And I shared this on the last call, and I don't want to miss it because I think it's so important. The military and the VA have reduced our service to numbers. I'm going to say that again. The military and the VA have reduced our honorable service to you're a friggin' number in the system. Hey, Mr. Reese, thank you for being here. What's your VA file number? Mr. Reese, thank you. Before I can serve you, what are your last four? Right? Hey, please take a number and sit and wait in line. Right? You grab a freaking slip like you're grabbing meat from the supermarket, and you sit down in shame. Nobody's talking to each other. Everybody's got their heads down, and you're looking up at a screen, and here's what you're waiting for. Now serving number 183 at window number 4. I'm sorry. How about now serving Brian Lofton. Thank you for your honorable service, USA, separated, United States Army, disabled veteran. Now serving Brian Reese, United States Air Force. Thank you for your service. Okay. You ain't a number here. You matter. You have a name. You stood up, you served your country, and it should be celebrated and it should be honored, and not the cheap thank you that you get from people who don't understand. Okay. You ain't getting cheap here. You're getting real.
Getting real.
You're getting real. Okay. And that is why we do what we do. And there ain't an organization like this on the planet who believes in the heart and soul of helping veterans celebrate real life change. Okay. If you find one, send it to me, because we either want to partner with them, buy them, right? Or assist them any way we can. Because that's how important this is to us. Right? We do this every single day, all day, to serve you live and in community.
Absolutely.
What this is all about, my man. So let's jump in. We've talked a little bit about the dependency and indemnity compensation program. We've talked about DEA, right? The Dependents Educational Assistance Program, which is incredible. Let's talk about CHAMPVA.
Oh yeah.
Because man, this is another one that is like, play myth busting 101 here. It's like, I don't know how many times the veteran has gone to Google or Yahoo or whatever Bing search engine you use and typed, do I get health care from the VA, right? It's like, why is it so freaking hard to get an answer to that question? And you got to remember that a lot of folks who wore the uniform didn't retire, okay? Meaning they didn't do a full 20 plus year career. If you do a full 20 plus year career, that qualifies you for TRICARE and a whole host of other benefits that carry with you for the rest of your life. Well, if you only did 1 year or 3 years or 5 years or 19.99 years, you don't get that benefit. Okay. Now enter CHAMPVA. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. This is so. Once we get the benefits and compensation that we deserve as veterans, specifically, if we reach 100%, then we basically have full medical taken care of. We can go to the VA as veterans. We're covered. Now, what does that do for our spouse and children? Nothing. All they can do is drive us and watch us get our appointments, right? They can sit there and wait with us. They don't get any other access to benefits because of that disability rating that we receive. So in comes CHAMPVA. What a tremendous benefit. If you're 100%, if you're permanent and total, now your spouse and dependents qualified get some awesome health care. And I've talked to people that have that, and they're like, man, why would I want private health care whenever I have this CHAMPVA? This is awesome. It gives your wife and children or your spouse and child access to benefits. You don't have to go out there and shop the market and try to figure out if your pocketbook can afford another $500 to $800 a month in health insurance. It's amazing. It's a great benefit.
It's incredible. I think this is easily in the top 3, maybe in the top couple of benefits that are available, period. Because the reason CHAMPVA is so powerful is if you meet the eligibility requirements, the health benefits extends to your dependents. Okay, so huge. Raise your hand if your health insurance keeps getting cheaper. Right? Nobody's raising their hand. Health insurance ain't getting any cheaper, folks. It's only going to get more and more and more and more and more expensive. Okay, now here's a little secret hack for you if you're curious to learn a ton more about CHAMPVA. If you open up Google or a web browser, I want you to type CHAMPVA, CHAMPVA, so CHAMPVA, good or bad. Right? I break it down. I wrote this article not too long ago because I wanted to do some myth busting, and I really wanted to give fellow vets and their dependents an understanding of what is this CHAMPVA thing, okay? What does it cover, and is it any good? Which, by the way, almost nobody knows this. CHAMPVA is an acronym. Okay, it stands for the Civilian Health and Medical Program of the VA. Okay, CHAMPVA. Now you have to apply for it, and I'll give you an example here. Okay, I applied for CHAMPVA, and it took about 8 weeks before I got a decision letter back saying that I was eligible and qualified, and that my dependents would qualified as well. Okay. Now, a couple things you need to think about. Okay. To be eligible for CHAMPVA, the beneficiary, the person getting the benefit, cannot be eligible for TRICARE. Okay. Now, remember, we talked about TRICARE, typically reserved for you did a full military career of 20 years or more, you retired, you now have full medical through TRICARE, okay, for the rest of your life. CHAMPVA provides coverage to the spouse, widow, and or children, okay, so the dependents of a disabled veteran who's either 100% PNT, okay, so permanently and totally disabled, or IU PNT, or you died due to a service-connected disability or death, okay? Or there was a death and the dependents weren't otherwise eligible for DoD TRICARE, okay? So again, I don't want to use this video to walk through every single step of CHAMPVA, but it's actually incredibly simple to send in an application. The painful part is waiting, okay? Because it's going to take probably a minimum of 8 weeks before you hear back. Okay, again, if you want to search for more information about CHAMPVA, free healthcare for eligible disabled veterans, their dependents, okay? Open up a Google browser from your phone or from an internet web browser on a laptop, a desktop, and type CHAMPVA, good or bad. Okay, we break it down in detail for you. Okay, now again, these are just a few benefits that we talked about today. There's many more, B. Loft, and actually, who wants to hear something really exciting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is going to be awesome.
Does anybody want to hear something exciting that I've never announced before? It's a secret. I'm going to announce it today. Let me see if I see some yeses. All right, I see a whole bunch of yeses. I'm following along. Okay. For the first time ever, I'm announcing we're actually being published. We are writing and publishing a real book, okay, with an ISBN number, with a scannable code, all right? Get ready. It's called You Deserve It, the definitive guide to getting the veteran benefits you've earned, okay? And you might be kind of thinking, oh, that's cool, but I kind of already know what the benefits are. I learned about a whole bunch of benefits writing this book that I didn't even know about, okay? I promise you, you will learn something you don't already know. And that one thing might be the thing that changes your life. Okay? You deserve it. the definitive guide to getting the veterans benefits you've earned. Okay, you heard me say this before. You served, you deserve. Now, people want to know already, B, when it's coming out. When is it coming out? How do I pre-order? Okay, so here's the deal. It's not available yet for pre-order. We're still finishing it. So, by the way, don't ever write a book. I'll tell you that flat out. I thought I wanted to write a book until I started writing a book, and then I realized I don't ever want to write a book again. But the bottom line is, I'm writing this book because it doesn't exist, number one. And number two, it is desperately needed for the 20 million veterans alive today and their dependents. Okay, what is it? In a nutshell, what is this book and why should I get it? Think of it as the one-stop shop resource that's going to include information on every benefit you can possibly think of, broken down by simple section, and I tell you what you really need to know. Not the BS you get when you start searching online and clicking through 17,000 links to end up more confused than when you started, okay? I was a hockey player. I ain't the smartest dude, right? Been hit in the head too many times. I got a terrible memory. I wrote the book as if I'm you, okay? I wrote the book as in this guy who can't remember anything, who ain't the smartest dude around, been hit in the head too many times, with a myriad of mental and physical conditions. What do I want it to say so that I know what I need to do? Okay? This book has 4 sections. I'm going to hold fingers up. I hope I got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4. The book has 4 sections. Section 1 goes through every possible VA benefit you can think of. Okay? Ordered by ones you should care about most and what you really need to know so that you can put together an action plan to get those benefits. Okay, that's section 1, VA benefits. And there's a whole host of them that you probably never even heard of. Okay? B. Loft's already gone, how do I get the book?
Hey, that's not even out yet. That's not even out yet, and we have requests to you do voiceover and make it an audio book.
It's coming. So here's the cool thing. It'll be hardcover, softcover, ebook, e-reader book, audio book, etc. It's going to be available in all formats. Okay. So section 1, VA benefits, soup to nuts, everything you need to know, simple, easy to understand. Section 2. So remember, VA benefits are federal benefits, right? Section 2, state benefits. State benefits vary by state. Yes, there are about 10 states that are much more veteran friendly than all the other states. But we share with you, no kidding, at the different rating criteria, what you qualify for in the state you live in. Let me just tease you. In the state of Texas, because of my service-connected disabilities, I don't pay property tax on my home, not a penny. That's a pretty big benefit, but you have to apply for it every single year. I show you how to do that in your state, okay? In the state of Texas, I get an unlimited hunting and fishing license that I never have to pay for because of my service-connected disabilities. I don't have to pay for license plates. I don't have to pay for license renewal. I get a DV plate, which means I can park free anywhere. I can park in a handicap spot. Okay? The point is, and by the way, that's just a few that I've rattled off. There's many others. State benefits, broken down by state of what you really need to know. That's section 2. Okay, so let's recap. Section 1, federal benefits, everything you deserve at the VA and how to get it. Section 2, state benefits, everything you deserve in your state and how to get it. You see some people pretty excited.
Yeah.
People are like, when is this book coming out? Probably the end of Q1. Okay, so probably March of 2021. Why does it take so long? Remember I said, don't ever write a book? That's why it takes so long. The hardest part about writing a book is deciding what not to say. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The most difficult part about writing a book is determining what you're not going to say. That's the hardest part. So the editing process is painful. So we're in the editing stage right now with a publisher. Thank God I have an entire team helping me because I never would have been able to pull this off on my own. Okay. Okay. So section 3, for-profit and nonprofit entities actually serve you, right? Do you have any idea the number of for-profit businesses who offer military and veteran discounts? Do you have any idea the number of nonprofit entities who have unbelievable programs to help you celebrate life change that are available to you and your families free of charge? We found one that'll actually send you on a 7-day all expense paid retreat for you and your spouse to reconnect again.
Wow.
Okay. Again, there's stuff out there that you just don't know about. It's not talked about. And I reveal it and I share it and I make it easy so you know what to do and how to do it. Okay. That's in section 3. Section 4, bonus resources. Okay. I wouldn't leave you hanging. I always have bonuses for you. I'm not going to share what those bonuses are just yet, but there's a whole section of bonus resources. Okay. Think of this as the VA and state Bible. I'll take a step back. It's the Veterans Bible.
Yeah.
It's the Veterans Handbook. It's the Veterans Survival Toolkit in this thing called life, in this thing called the civilian world, that when we feel like we don't belong. It will be the one-stop resource for you to refer to. And by the way, I don't want you to keep it pretty. I want you to highlight it. I want you to circle things. I want you to bend pages over. I want you to read it 100 times. I want you to skip to the parts that you care most about. Okay? Don't let it sit on the shelf and gather dust. Keep it out. Have your loved ones read it. Right? Maybe you don't see well. Maybe you've got memory loss. Pointing to myself. Okay? Have a loved one read it so they can help you. Okay? I'm so excited about this that I can barely contain it, but we're still deep in the manuscript and editing phase, but I promise that fellow insiders will be the first to know. Okay, when it's out. Targeting probably the end of Q1 of 2021. I was hoping to have it done in time for Christmas, in time for the holidays, but there's just too much to be done. And again, I've got more cuts to make, deciding what not to put in the book. Okay, so super excited about that.
That's huge.
Awesome.
That needs to go in the book bag of everybody who's taking off the uniform. That needs to go into every VA facility. That's just huge.
Super excited, B-Loft. Super excited. And you know what's really scary? It doesn't exist.
No.
Why did it take until 2021 for somebody to package the information for fellow veterans? That's shameful. Anyway,
yeah.
Help is on the way. Help is on the way, and we're here to serve. Hey, B-Loft, I know there's a lot of stuff we could continue to cover. I want to turn it over, though, in the few minutes we have left here, to the fellow insiders, right? Anybody hearing our voice right now, we're live on Facebook. If you're watching the recording on YouTube, again, welcome to you as well. What questions do you have? It could be about how disabilities affect, your life, your dependents' lives. It could be about what benefits you're entitled to if you're a dependent. of a service disabled veteran or of a disabled veteran who has died of a service-connected disability or killed in the line of duty. It could be about your claim. It could be about life. You could just come on and say, boom, right? We did that at the beginning. If you want to do that, go ahead. But Eric and some of our folks helping on the background, go ahead and flash questions across the screen here, and we'll see if we can tackle a few of these. Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. What if you're medically retired? If you're medically retired, hey, you still have disabilities that have occurred. Mm-hmm. You still have a right to pursue those benefits.
Yeah, there's so much confusion out there, Brandon, and thank you for that question. The question for anybody just listening is, what if you were medically retired? There's a difference between DOD, disability benefits, and VA benefits, okay? Now, typically what will happen is if you're medically retired, they're gonna probably give you some type of a rating that will be in conjunction with the VA, and then they boot you out, right? The point though, Brandon, is we know what happens to the human body over time. We age, things get worse, and maybe what you were medically retired as, or if they gave you some type of a disability percentage, maybe you actually deserve much higher than that. In our experience, DOD always, let me not say always, DOD more likely than not, right? More often than not, underrates the crap out of folks who they medically retire. Guess what? It's never over. You can still continue to pursue VA benefits. Okay. Hopefully that helps answer. Oh, such a huge topic from James. Go ahead, B-Loft. Do you want to talk about service dogs?
Well, so service dogs, there are lots of organizations out there, right? So lots of different criteria as to what organization, what they're looking for specifically to how to help. What I would say is the best thing to do is we can talk about your specific situation and try to connect you with the right organization. There's just so many options out there.
James, the biggest issue with service dogs is the VA does not cover the cost of service dogs, and the cost can be pretty insane, right? It can cost $50,000 to $80,000 to put a dog through the type of training program that it needs to be able to actually help a disabled veteran. And so the VA is not going to cover that. I am happy to announce that there's been some legislation proposed to change that. I don't see that getting approved anytime soon, though. So B-Loft is on it. There are 3 to 4 organizations that we've referred vets to in the past. They're nonprofit organizations, and you can connect with them, and maybe, right, hopefully you could get connected with a service dog that's right for you, because it's also about fit, right? So even if you're eligible, they want to connect the right dog to you for your needs. We have a few teammates who have service dogs. They've gone through this whole process. They understand the ins and outs. They've got recommendations. And so, James, feel free to reach back out to our teammates, and we'll connect you with some resources, okay?
Oh, it's a great question.
Yeah, go ahead on that one.
Yeah, so Terrence is asking, if your wife is taking care of you, what are the benefits for her? There are benefits either through aid and attendance, and that's through the benefit side of the VA house. Also on the VA health side, there's a caregiver program. So there's definitely some options to look at, and depending on which one would be the right one. Again, that's kind of looking at the specific situation, but there are benefits, even for family members who are providing that aid and attendance or that caregiving. And that's a much needed help, including respite care and things like that.
Yeah. So I think what he's hitting on, and you nailed it, is if you require the daily care of another person, okay, because of your service-connected disabilities, you may be eligible or qualify for aid in attendance, housebound. So you can essentially receive an extra stipend to help with your ongoing and recurring care. Okay.
Good question, Cerise.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Glad that you're here. That's a great question. The way that you get started is you go to claimsinsider.com and sign up for the Elite program. Once you get started with us, you'll get assigned to a coach, and we have all kinds of programs all kinds of coaching to help you with and resources. The point is that we help remove the confusion of what is the next step. There's always that question: what do I need, and what's the next step? And that's what our coaching can help you navigate. And so, just plugging into VAClaimsinsider.com and getting the ball rolling, there's no risk for you. Just get that started.
Yeah, that's awesome. But one thing I would add to that is, in addition to signing up with us, so we can serve you from beginning to end here and walk the journey together. Make sure you do it the right way. Get the benefits you legally, morally, ethically, medically deserve by law. Okay. What I want you to also understand is, and this goes for anybody hearing my voice, get your butt inside of va.gov or eBenefits and start a claim.
Yeah.
If you want to file a disability claim, or you want to file an increase or add new things to a disability condition that you've already got service connected, do that today, because you initiate what's called a notice of intent to file, and it puts the VA on notice. It's a heads up, right? It's a, hey, heads up, VA, I'm probably going to file a claim. You then have 12 months to get all of your documents and everything in order to actually click submit, right? You get plenty of time. But the reason you want to open that notice of intent to file now is it sets the filing date. So 9 months from now, when they award your claim and you get that big increase, they pay you back to the date of your notice of intent to file. Critical. And guess what? If you miss 12 months in one day, clock starts over.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead on Mario there.
Mario, is there a big difference between being diagnosed with PTSD and adjustment disorder with anxiety? So as far as benefits go, there's no difference. It's a mental health claim. The mental health ratings are all based off of the same 31 mental health symptoms, or such as those 31 mental health symptoms. So one of the things that we caution all of you is not to get caught up on what label that you're really looking for. We have some vets that think that if I don't have PTSD, then I'm not getting what I deserve. Or we have vets that say, if I have PTSD, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm fine with other labels.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the diagnosis is just the diagnosis. It doesn't affect the difference. It doesn't create a difference in what disability rating that you're going to get. They're all rated off of the same symptoms.
And Beloff, how many mental health claims are we going to get rated for?
We're going to get one mental health rating. So you have 4 diagnosed mental health conditions. The VA is going to give you 99.99% of the time one rating. And so don't worry about which one. What the VA looks at is what do they attribute the highest level of impairment for any particular diagnosis, and that's what they're obligated to rate you at.
Yeah.
And mental health is rated anywhere from 0% to 100%. So we've got another question here from Fred. A friend of mine whose VA disabled husband passed away, and she was told that she made too much money for spousal benefits. What's up with that? So, Fred, there is a survivor pension, and survivor pension is eligible, is a benefit that's eligible for spouses, surviving spouses or dependents of a wartime vet, as long as they meet certain income and asset thresholds. So that's probably what your friend is talking about. That is separate. That is a separate compensation benefit from the DIC, or the DIC program that we talked about earlier. So the VA doesn't pay you both. They will pay you which one is going to pay you at the highest level.
Yeah.
And so if that veteran had passed away from a disability that they were service connected for, then they're actually eligible for that incentive compensation, that DIC program also. So that may be an alternative to look at. It really just depends on what they were service connected for, and is that why they passed away.
Let's take maybe one more question before we wrap up. I apologize if we're a little bit over. And again, fellow disabled vets and service members and UB Loft and all of our folks in our team, thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. It means the world to us. I mean, we wouldn't do this without you, right? And so we love doing this together live and in community. So if we've got one more question, happy to answer that before we wrap up.
Okay, so we got a question from Facebook user. I'm underrated at 30% for unspecified anxiety disorder. I explained my stressor event to the rater. What evidence is needed for an increase? So that's all about you being able to express your symptoms and tell your story.
Yeah.
That's really one of the challenges that we have when we go into these types of evaluations or exams. We don't necessarily know what it is that we're dealing with. We don't necessarily know what labels to put on it. And we certainly have a hard time expressing and opening up.
I want to talk about it.
Who wants to open up and be vulnerable? But at the end of the day, that is the key to getting the rating that you deserve. Is whenever you go into an examination, you have to open up and be as vulnerable as you can possibly be. And you have to be prepared to talk about your worst symptoms and how those are impairing you both occupationally and socially.
Yeah.
So it may be that you need to just continue seeking your counseling, seeking assistance, and building up the record. We also have a medical network of excellent psychologists who do evaluations. And our coaching, we focus on helping you talk about your story, just helping you open up, right? That's what's important.
Huge, man. Couldn't have said it better. The increase, it's really quite simple. Is do your symptoms limit or affect your life in a negative way? And how are those symptoms negatively affecting and limiting your work, your life, your social functioning? And, you just mentioned, sir, that you're at 30%. The symptoms at the 30% mental health rating are pretty low, right? And if your symptoms are more severe than that, you need to make sure you tell your true story. You got to tell that psychologist and the CMP examiner, you got to tell them you're ugly, your ugly truths, and you got to share everything. That's the main thing we see is if a veteran's underrated for mental health, it's usually not because they're actually okay. It's because they really failed to adequately explain how severe their symptoms are and how they're limiting and affecting your life. And so you just have to be prepared to be uncomfortably vulnerable What does that mean? That means you got to talk about things you don't want to talk about, right? The best one I can explain when I talk about be uncomfortably vulnerable is raise your hand if you love to talk about your sexual dysfunction, right? Raise your hand, right? Fun topic, right? Fun topic to bring up at Thanksgiving dinner. No, nobody wants to talk about it, ever. Which is exactly why if you suffer from female sexual arousal disorder or erectile dysfunction because of your mental health condition, you better talk about it and you got to explain how it's affecting your relationship. Okay? That's what it means to be uncomfortably vulnerable. Okay?
Yep.
Again, fellow disabled vets, love you. We're with you, right? We are with you in this battlefield, this war zone called life. It doesn't matter how ugly things are. It doesn't matter how broken you are. I promise you, we've heard it. We've seen it. We've probably done it all. Right? There is nothing you could tell me that you're into that would surprise me. Okay? Nothing. Here, you belong. You served. You deserve. You ain't a number. You're a fellow disabled veteran, and we will treat you with the respect and the honor and the service that you deserve as an American patriot. That's what you get here. Right. Okay. Be Loft. Many thanks, brother. It was awesome jamming with you. I look forward to future sessions, and Eric and our whole team on the back end, teammates answering questions from the community. Thank you. It takes the full army, right, of our warriors to make this happen. And so very, very thankful. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate you, B. Thank you, everybody.